Please read the disclaimer. Holy smokus, it ain't no jokes. Why did the crypto markets give us a Sunday night crash, sell-off, however you want to call it? What's going on with XRP? Actually, XRPL volume is up significantly. We'll talk about all the latest and the greatest things you must know for this week. All I ask from you is that you give me a beautiful smile, send out those good vibes. Smash that like button and let's get into it. So I decided last night to go to sleep early, and I didn't make a Sunday evening video. And the market decided to take a dump, a tank. This was very interesting. I actually woke up at around 3 a.m. my time, and I looked at the market because my son woke me up, and then I was like, oh, what happened? Did Iran get attacked or something? Because the market was, I saw it was falling off a cliff suddenly. It was right here where I saw it happening live. And I didn't see anything. I went to the news sites. I didn't hear any sirens. So I was like, okay, it must be a Sunday night into Monday morning sell-off where we have a slew of things happening this week. We got key events, market reacting to the Trump 15% global tariff. Remember, that came after the markets were closed on Friday. So he announced the 10% in that press conference. And then later, I was in the night or in the morning, the 15% came out. And we got a reply from China in just a second, which we'll talk about. That might also be putting some pressure. Remember what happened in October 10th when we had tariffs, China, right? And everything collapsed. So that created a little bit of pressure. We also have February consumer confidence data on Tuesday. NVIDIA, biggest stock on the stock market, reporting on Wednesday. Initial jobless claims on Thursday. PPI inflation on Friday. The biggest thing here, right, is will the U.S. attack Iran? That is the biggest thing on the table right now. According to reports, and this might be a false flag, so we have to take that into consideration. It seems like they're removing the pedal from the metal a little bit, and they're more progressive to sign a deal, right? The U.S., that's what they're saying, but this all might be a ruse to have the Iranians pull their guard down. We'll see. We'll see about that. It says that Israel is not happy about this, but we'll see what happens with this and where the market will go if it happens. Of course, we also have the Clarity Act that might be updated, but we saw, and remember, we've been tracking this, right? So the 1348 EMA, right? What happened again? It was about to cross over for Bitcoin here on the 4-hour, and then suddenly, kaboom, right? Big sell-off. Same thing for Ethereum, kaboom. Now, we do have two headlines here, which are interesting because a new Satoshi era whale exited after 15 years, dumped $750 million worth of Bitcoin. A dormant early miner from Bitcoin Genesis era just loaded 11,000 Bitcoin worth $750 million, closing a position that had remained untouched since the network's earliest days. So that created a little bit of fear. What's the community note here? That refers to batches from a wallet labeled Trump Insider by Arkham Intelligence. Interesting. I don't know if that has anything to do with that, but we also got Vitalik that is also reducing his position as well on Ethereum, so selling 1,800 Ethereum worth about $3.67 million over the last 2 days. And so last time Vitalik started selling, Ethereum dropped 23%. So that could also be what sent Ethereum and Bitcoin down, and they brought the rest of the market with them. And we had XRP was down, I think, 4 or 5%, but it has actually recovered. So it's only down 2% here today. At currently XRP is at $1.36. Again, Bitcoin is at 65,000. This is the lowest that Bitcoin has been since we had that sell-off on February 5th, right? So February 5th, we went all the way down to 60,000. This is the lowest level that we've had since then. And Ethereum, similar, right? The lowest level. XRP, similar, lowest level. It actually broke down the support level here for XRP that we were talking about, how multiple times it tested, but there was just a lot of veracity. I don't think that's the word. There was just a lot of selling pressure when that was going on from the algos. And when that happens, sometimes you'll see slippage, right? So it broke that, but very quickly rallied above it, right? And this was a very short period of time of sell-off. This all happened in about a total of an hour. So it started around, you could say from here, so 2:30 to about 3:30, yeah, an hour, 4% drop off. And that is exactly when also the weekly candle closes, right? So GMT time, 3 a.m. GMT time is when it closes. As soon as the candle closed on the weekly, right, it dropped down a little bit more, right? Because there probably was, liquidations and things like that. And we can see how much liquidation we've seen over the past 12 hours, right? You can see this here, 226 and 117 million for Bitcoin and Ethereum, were most of the liquidations here happening on the two big ones. And you're not seeing, I don't even see XRP here. It's very small here, 10 million. Well, still, a nice amount, but not huge liquidations like we've seen before, only 487 million. So there could have been a lot of, again, just trigger of sell-offs, right? And not a huge amount of liquidations, but the price action had slippage because of some big positions that were getting closed here by the algos. We are at the lowest fear that we have seen 5. So this is, I think we had 5 on February 12th, right? February 12th, we saw 5, and today we're seeing 5. Where were we on February 12th? February 12th, what was going on? Probably this dip off here, right? So the last time we tested the 65,000 level for Bitcoin, that's the last time we saw this level of extreme fear. And, there are people already that are saying this is not normal. Bitcoin has crashed 49% and wiped over 1.2 trillion from its market cap in the last 139 days. This is the first time in Bitcoin history we've seen such a big drop, $62,000 with zero relief rally. Let's put a pin in this for just a second. Something has changed in crypto markets since October 10 liquidation event. Okay, let's talk about this statement here. Before we get into that, I just want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. We have a situation right now where the whole Trump rally has been eliminated for Bitcoin, right? XRP actually is still, it was at 50 cents, even lower, and it's at $1.32. So actually XRP is doing a lot better than where it was, when we started this Trump rally, you could call it. Ethereum is also back to levels that we saw in April of 25, but I wouldn't say that it has deleted all of the Trump rally. It really didn't have you could say a Trump rally. It did, but it started out at that time, it was at 1500. So actually Ethereum is still above that level. Only one that is basically back there is Bitcoin, where Bitcoin it had a run up, but it wasn't in the same fierceness as altcoins, right? So now we're back at similar levels, and again, we were already at these levels on February 5th, and now we're back there. And the statement here from Bull Theory saying, well, this time is different. I'm not sure really about that, because if you go and you take a look, right, what happened back in 2022, right? We're going for a history lesson here. This is just to remind us where the market was, and people saying, oh, this time is different. This time, the market got broken on October 10th. And yes, maybe some things unraveled on October 10th. But similar things happened in 2022, okay? So if you remember, Bitcoin was sitting at around 30,000 at the time. And we first had this sell-off here, the initial sell-off, and we dropped about 35% in very 2 weeks, right? Then there was about a month of consolidation, and then we had the FTX collapse and all that, and Bitcoin dropped another 40% in 2 weeks, right? And then we had long consolidation, and then we had another drop here to the bottom, which was around 15,000, right? It dropped another 27% in very 2-3 days, and then we consolidated here, and then it started rallying to the upside, right? So there was a period of time, let's say from here, let's say the initial sell-off from Bitcoin was around 40,000 to the bottom, it was about 250 days. Okay, so let's look right now where we are on this situation, right? So if we go and we take the peak right now, we are about 140 days into this sell-off. Bitcoin is now down 50%. So again, at this time, if you take the high, of course, to the low, Bitcoin dropped 77%. If you take specifically when the unraveling started happening, right, the big pullbacks, it was around 193 days until we saw the bottom there. So you could say, okay, this is something similar that is going on here, right? And in this sell-off, right, we had the sell-off October 10th. So this was the trigger, although for Bitcoin, it wasn't that big of a sell-off. Remember that. The unraveling happened over the next few months. It didn't have that, big wick that XRP had to kind of close the gap on that wick. Bitcoin and Ethereum didn't have that. So their graphs look a bit different. Even Solana didn't have that. It was mainly altcoins, you can see Cardano and others, that had that unraveling to those lower levels, and then they pop right back up. So that's very interesting looking at that. And if you look year to date, XRP is down minus 26%. And it's a level with Bitcoin. So it's not that XRP is doing a lot worse than Bitcoin year to date. Ethereum is doing worse, 36% down, and Solana is doing worse, also 36.8%. So they're about the same level. Let's see, Cardano actually doing better than XRP, so year to date. So interesting, right? But Cardano, if you go back to where it was, before the Trump rally, it was about the same level, right? 30 cents, somewhere around that. So it's actually lower than it was on the Trump, before the Trump rally. And XRP is 3x-ish from there. So XRP, again, if you bought before the Trump rally, you're in a much better position than you were prior. But in general, the crypto market has not been doing great. So the fact is that we might see a continuation here, consolidation, before we hit rock bottom. Are we at rock bottom? Well, the Fear and Crypto Greed Index tells us that we are, right? We're close to that, because if you go and you look here, where was the rock bottom here? It was around June 14th, somewhere around that. And if you go back to that year, right, June 14th was around here. So it took actually from that rock bottom, so that was the rock bottom there, it took about another 200 days, right, from that scenario. So only in January of 23 did we start rallying back up. And this could happen. This is a possibility that could happen for the crypto market. We have to take this into consideration that it will happen. I don't know how this market plays out. Again, maybe we don't see an even more extreme low, because remember, Bitcoin dropped from that high of 68,000 all the way down to 15,000, it dropped about 77%. If that happens, that would bring us around 30,000, right? So for Bitcoin, somewhere around that area. We're not there. So there still potentially could be a lot more sell-off if we did a similar movement to what happened here. But remember, here we had that massive rally where from the low, the pandemic low there, we did in 2 years, basically 600 days, almost 1,800%. So we'll see how this potential plays out. We don't know yet, and we'll find out soon enough. Right? So it's going to be very interesting. And you have China Commerce Ministry just saying China urges U.S. to scrap unilateral tariffs. China monitoring Supreme Court decision. U.S. unilateral measures such as the tariffs here violate trade rules. The Chinese have got to, they don't like this situation, right? So again, that could be part of the sell-off. But then you have Tyler here, Winklevoss, one of the Winklevoss twins, saying the sentiment in crypto right now is so bad that he's actually pretty optimistic, right? When you get to extreme fear, that is historically usually when, the best time to get into the market. But the question is, like we saw here back in 2022, we had extreme fear in June, but then only in November did it start rallying back up. But to get into this area is very, very hard. Why? Because most people, they don't buy this area. When it's the lowest point and it's 15,000, I was making videos here talking about what amazing opportunity this was, and people were poo-pooing in the comments, right? Because this is just how people are. They want to be here on the rally. They don't want to be here in the trenches. And you can see that, viewership is down all across the board right now. And it's funny, but this is just how the way it is. People, they don't want to get information when things are actually a lot more quote unquote cheaper than they were just a few months ago. And if you look at XRP again, if people have price targets that are 2 digits or wherever they think that XRP can go, then actually the price action right now is very, very tasty. Could it drop to $1? Yes, there's a possibility that XRP tests the $1 level once again. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Again, we talked about this yesterday. The whole situation in Iran develops in an extreme way, then anything can happen. Okay. And so we need to be very, very careful with what we're doing and take into consideration all possibilities. But for XRP, again, in specific, we're hearing good things. Again, if you go back and you say, oh, the Trump era, is there anything bad that's happened, right, that would signal to us that crypto is in a worse situation than it was before Trump won the election? No, but Bitcoin price is exactly where it was then. So it's, by many people's view, it's undervalued. Other people will say it's overvalued. Some people say Bitcoin needs to go to zero. Some people say it needs to go to 1 million. Again, it's all about your perspective and all about how you see the market. Now, daily successful transactions on the XRP ledger have jumped about 40%, approaching 2.5 million per day, pointing to rising real network usage even as XRP price remains below key moving averages. So one of the kicks on XRP and the XRP ledger was that there's not a lot of traffic or enough traffic on it. And Brad Garlinghouse, in the interview we covered yesterday, he confirmed to us that it's moving in the right direction, that they're seeing more traffic, and potentially in the coming years, we'll see a lot more traffic. So this is going to be interesting. We'll continue to track that and see how that plays out. It's going to be very interesting to see how this day plays out. Pre-market, we're seeing a little bit of a pullback from stocks. Silver is about the same where it was on Friday. Right? So yeah, a little bit up, about 2%. And it will be very interesting to see where the markets go here today. And the former people are saying maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday. Let's just go with the flow. We'll see what the market brings. We'll see what the whole situation with the US is going to be. And it's going to be very interesting. Don't forget to smash the like button. Check out the links in the description down below. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.